Welcome to Our Next Existence by Katie and the Chorus. I'm Katie, former technology strategist turned reluctant spiritual medium, and I channel messages from the Chorus, a group of beings just beyond our sensory perceptions who are loving, expansive, and who greatly enjoy sharing their perspective of us. Join us each week as we share and discuss their ideas about humanity's existence, purpose, and future. Concepts you can draw from to accelerate your path, expand your perceptions, and ultimately step into the flow of the universe and your life. Welcome back, everybody, and good morning. It's really early in the morning here. I was just thinking how when this used to happen before, I would wonder if my voice was warmed up and I would sound sleepy and should I do something? Now it's just like, good morning, let's jump in. It's funny how things change. Okay, so last week we introduced the Chorus's definition of power, and I shared generally some unpleasant things that have been happening to me in the evenings recently and also over quite a period of time. In this episode, I would like to continue with this concept of power, and to do so, I'm going to get more specific about what has happened to me. As I do so, it is likely to affect some emotional sensations in you, which is the point in some ways, to feel certain things as we explore these energies, same as with every episode, but definitely in this one. There is also a chance that this may cause you to remember things, which would be productive, but also potentially surprising. So I want to put up that signpost up front so that maybe you can be in a place where you can listen to these things and give yourself some time for reflection with it, or some space to remember things with it. So I would like to tell you what happened to me one night recently with more detail. And as I do this, I want you to feel consciously the variety of sensations that come through you. It's really not about my story. It's more about the ways in which you feel through the things that I am sharing. As much as we think that everyone would probably react similarly to what I'm about to say, I would like to suggest that that's not true. That how you react to my story is indicative of important things. It's telling you important things about who you are. There is a lot of nuance in our emotional perceptions. And that we might say, Katie, who wouldn't hear your story and be outraged? The question is not who, the question is not listening to it and who would believe me or any of that. Although we do often get caught up in being believed by others. Rather, it's about that sense of outrage that we think is identical or common or repeating amongst all of us. And in realizing the uniqueness of what it is that we feel when we feel it, we are actually developing or expanding into a much more nuanced ability to interact directly with the energies of the universe. So, a handful of nights ago, as I was getting ready for bed, I was agitated in a way that I've come to recognize. I know when it's coming. Usually, I'll find myself Googling security doors or guard dogs or things of that nature, and then I recognize why. It's because I perceive a threat. As I go to bed, sometimes I will ask for assistance in what it is that I'm about to face. Sometimes I'm really grouchy and cynical, and I'm like, let's just get it fucking over with. I do this because in my work with the Chorus and others, I understand that I am expected to be a warrior of presence. Running from the situation will not construct a new understanding of the situation. And my soul, my higher self, my whole self clearly has some things in mind, as it has become abundantly obvious to me lately. And one of them is understanding. So as I go to bed, I don't necessarily ask for protection or prevention of the situation. How could I? After being with the chorus for years, I don't want to energize more experiences that I need to protect or prevent. So instead, I acknowledge that I am about to walk forward into something else that I don't understand. And I ask for assistance in building connections and in developing or bringing back through the clarity that I most next need. So I lay down in bed, and usually the evening is a little tumultuous. I don't often sleep well in the first part of it. I can sometimes remember my dreams, but what really happens is some point in the night, everything shifts into a different kind of dream. And most of what I remember from this other night is that I'm standing in the dream outside in an open landscape, a lot like the Western United States. I'm standing on a rocky hill and we're looking at, across a distance, a range of mountains. And the people that I'm with, I would recognize in waking life. And they're asking me for directions. They want to know where something is. But interestingly, they're not asking me for directions like on a hike. They want to know how to get under the mountain. And they want to know which mountain to go under. And they want to know how to get to it. Now, as I start to become lucid at this point in the dream, I don't know exactly what it is that they're asking about from my lucid perspective, starting to awaken and observe this. But the part of me that is active in the dream somehow knows exactly what they're talking about and is starting to give them the directions. As I become lucid, however, I start to doubt if this is a good idea. I start to feel an uncertainty of what's going on here and where am I? As I start to hesitate and withdraw from the idea of giving them these directions, as I start to stop mid-sentence about what I was saying about the way the water flows under the mountain, I feel a very painful sensation in my right ear, in my waking physical body right ear. Something painful is inserted, and it almost feels like it then turns and reaches down my neck. In the dream, nothing is happening to explain this painful sensation. I am feeling the pain in my physical body wherever I am sleeping, and I am hesitating and becoming more lucid in the dream itself. So in the dream, I grab my ear and the side of my neck and then feel myself start to struggle and feel myself being held down so that I can't move wherever my physical body is. The dream starts to break up and lose its coherency. And then I am snapped back into my bed where I am laying face down in the dark alone. My ear and the side of my neck are still in pain. It's not the kind of pain like you get punched. It's the kind of pain like something needle-like has punctured you and gone places that it shouldn't have. You feel eerie and disgusting from the inside out. And I sort of writhed in bed for a few minutes trying to shake it off or rub it off, or I had these sort of involuntary spasms of sort that I felt inside of me as I came back to consciousness in this body. As I often do when this occurs, I start repeating the dream to myself, both the images and the words that were being said, so that I remember them. I tried to recognize the mountain that they were asking me about, tried to remember the specific questions, the information they were trying to get out of me. And in this case, most frustratingly, I was able to connect what they had done that night to an experience that I had had the night prior. In fact, I had run a little bit of a test from that soul-based perspective, which now I understood what I was doing, but I didn't at the time and I didn't the day before. But basically, I released a set of information about the thing that had happened the night before, and whether because they can see on other frequencies or because they were listening to me on these ones, it was no accident that they targeted the right side of my body and my right ear. I was angry, so angry. I was proud of myself for waking up at the point that I did. I was amazed that the connections were becoming so obvious. And I looked at the clock and debated whether or not I should try and sleep longer before it was time to wake up my son. Now, I want you to check in about what you're feeling as you're hearing my story. And among the variety of sensations that you're probably feeling, I know some of you, in hearing my story, are going to sense your own anger over my situation, over yours, over what you've heard from others. Here, I would like to point out that anger, in this case, is a positive thing, a demonstration of power. And my friends, it's been a long time coming, but we'll get to that. And now that we have felt all of that, I'm going to tell you the exact same story from a very different perspective. And then I want you to feel what you feel next with regards to the chorus's definition of power. Now, the story I tell you next, I feel inside of me that some parts are true, but this is not necessarily the perspective that I held as it happened. I held the perspective that I just told you about. The point of this is to illustrate in a feeling way what the chorus is talking about with power. I come from an unusual family. A family that is many, 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 many millions of years old. There are so many of us that we don't even have words in our languages for numbers that high. We are spread over many, many, many gazillions and gazillions and gazillions of astronomical miles, of galaxies, of realms, of dimensions, however you would like to describe it. We don't always get along. In fact, a lot of us have been getting into arguments for, several million years and have been pretty destructive in the process. It's been going on for so long, and so many things have happened in between, including knocking ourselves out many, many, many times, that there's a whole lot of us that have forgotten that we are even related. But the universe is funny because even as we have forgotten that we are who we are, somehow we are brought back together again, even on super specific frequencies like the five senses. A long time ago, I decided to, let's say, check out of the whole disagreement. I'd had enough. There was also some aspects of me believing that I was a mistaken destroyer and feeling pretty remorseful about that. So I stepped out of the fray and started creating my own experience of limitation where I would see a lot less of my pain in the ass family members. Well, surprisingly or not, because the universe is pretty funny, some family members came with me. Some family members knowingly came with me. Some family members accidentally came with me. And some family members don't really know where they're going at any point in time, but somehow also ended up on these frequencies in a place that we would have called Earth in a time period a lot like this one. Now, this particular group of family members that showed up here, which really didn't understand that where they had showed up was here. They were so caught up in their own drama that they thought, well, they think they are who they are. Just say it like that. This particular group of family members loves technology. They are so freaking obsessed with their stupid machines. I don't know how many times I've tried to get them to feel what it is that they can feel with their most incredible godlike abilities, but instead, over and over again, they build these stupid things and they're so annoying. They're younger than I am, and in fact, they're a lot like little brothers. They just don't get it. And I don't even understand why they're so obsessed with the things that they're obsessed with. And sometimes they're cute, and sometimes I'm really glad that they're my little brothers, but other times I am so tired of them doing what they do. And the worst thing is that they gang up on me so that they can try out different machines on me because they think genetics is the answer to everything. Ascension, change your genetics. Abilities, change your genetics. God, it's exhausting. Doesn't matter how many times I show them other ways to do it. They still think somehow they can build some sort of new whiz bang that's going to exceed every other type of machine and genetic machine and whatever it is that they're building. So, anyways, enough grousing. Long story short, one night I am on a particular planet, gradually, gently awakening from that experience of limitation that I set up for myself, where I'd frankly had enough of all of this noise and just wanted to be on vacation. And my little brothers, my idiotic little brothers, who have completely forgotten who they are too, but are so asleep that they don't even question who they are, show up at my planet and become completely obsessed with the genetics of me and my other friends who followed me into this experience, unaware that they're being complete idiots who have somehow, in a vast universe of creation, only stumbled upon their big sister all over again in another illusion and are bothering me again. So one night, I'm going to bed, trying to balance being an awakening human and feeling all of this stuff from my soul parts and whatever. And the little shits show up in the middle of the night and use their machinery to sort of create an illusion in an illusion and then poke their dumbass machines into my ear to try and see how my genetics are doing what they're doing as I'm awakening. Has this ever worked before? No, but they don't even stop to question it. They just keep doubling down on their dumb technology. So anyways, I start to wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, you guys, cut it out. And they're like, get her. Because they all gang up on me all the time. They get out their stupid toys. So anyways, I wake up in the middle of the dream and I punch them all and I kick them against the wall and they're super upset with me. And I ended up breaking one of their machines, but they left. And now we'll see what happens when mom finds out. Did anything change in your sense of power as you heard my story? It was a little silly because it was supposed to be. In that story, what I added was a greater context, a much greater context, a greater sense of who I am in relation to who is acting in the story, which is connection. And in connecting to them and knowing more about them and knowing more about myself, the balance of power changes. They are known, they are understood. I am known, I am understood. And if you notice, the bulk of that story was about the connection and the background and the reasons and an understanding of why they do what they do and why I am here trying to take a vacation. And really, the violence, as we would have said in last week's episode, the punches that I threw, the ways I fought back, was kind of just the footnote at the tail end of the story. Who wouldn't kick a little brother who was being a total asshole? See, now we're back to it, aren't we? Oh, violence, Katie? I don't know. But do you see how, in a different sense of connection, that expression of what I am, of my uniqueness, of my understanding, isn't really that big of a deal? It makes sense. And moreover, it's not coming from an effort to eliminate the opposition. It comes from a place of understanding them. That type of blow, that type of attack, lands very differently. And by the Chorus's view, when we are allowing of everything that we are and take motion, take action from that perspective, it is highly probable that anyone who observes or is the recipient of that action will feel and experience connective or expansive effects. Meaning, rainbow light shoots out of me and knocks all of my baby brothers up against the wall, and as they slide down it and lump on the floor, they shake their heads and say, "What was that?" Maybe they run away, maybe they get back on their ship or whatever it is. They disappear into their dimension. Probably a more appropriate thing to say. But there is a chance that as they walk away, one or two or all of them will say to themselves, "But did you see the way she looked at me? It was kind of like she knew me." Something connective will have landed because the blow that they received was based on an expression of a connective energy. Family's such a pain in the ass, isn't it? I don't know the details like I described in the second version of this story, but I feel the truth of some of them. This is an old argument that has taken different forms and is taking one now. This is not our first rodeo with these particular dance partners in many cases. So they may have forgotten and we may have forgotten, and some may be remembering big portions while some of us, not hardly any portions at all. These are the connections that we are rebuilding, and this is potentially the threat that humanity poses. Once seen, the illusions shatter. And moreover, to get quite specific, based on my experiences, there is something about my light that when it is connective, their machines don't work. Quite a crisis, isn't it? For a bunch of baby brothers who love nothing more than their machines. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Why they would become obsessed with humanity in this timeline. Why they would visit me more and more and more often, trying to understand from their perspective the changes that I am rapidly undergoing as I undergo them. It's power. Simply because I am expressing with each day more of my uniqueness. I am powerful in a situation that I didn't even know I was powerful in until I started to awaken into that situation. And I would venture a guess that the same is true for any of you who have been guided to this podcast and these frequencies. So, in case our baby brothers are making a ruckus and being quite a pain in the ass for you also, turns out they are still looking up to you. They are still trying to emulate something that you have. And the best way to teach them is to show them. So next time, become everything that you are. We love you infinitely. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you found these messages to be helpful. May they accelerate you on your path wherever you'd like it to go. For more information on the books which correspond to these podcast seasons, our podcast, live events, or how to get in touch with us, visit katieandthechorus.com. Thanks again. See you next time.